I wish to recognize a delegation from the Parliament of Uganda, and I wish to introduce to you a delegation of members of staff from the office of the leader of the opposition party in the Parliament of the Republic of Uganda, who are seated in the Speaker's gallery. They are, when I mention your name, visitors, you stand up for recognition. Mr. Leonard Walusimbi, Senior Policy Analyst. Mr. Ali Lusiba, Policy Analyst. Ms. Victoria Guacala, Research Assistant. Ms. Sylvia Bugembe, Assistant Secretary. Mr. Hamidu Tibenkana, Assistant Secretary. Honorable members, the officers are in the country on a benchmarking visit aimed at, among other things, sharing knowledge and experiences with their counterparts on various subjects including budget development, scrutiny, monitoring, and evaluation, as well as best office management practices and general administration. On my own behalf, honorable members, and on behalf of the National Assembly, I welcome our visitors to Parliament and wish them fruitful engagement during the course of their stay in the country. Welcome.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, October 12th, 2022, afternoon sitting. 1, reports of the Auditor General and financial statements in respect of the following institutions for the year ended 30th June 2021 and the certificates therein. A, Nyayo T-Zones Development Corporation. B, Pest Control Products Board. C, Kipchambo Tea Factory. D, Agricultural Finance Corporation. E, National Water Harvesting and Storage Authority. F, Wildlife Clubs of Kenya. G, Kenya School of Law. H, Kenya Leather Development Council. I, Emurua Dikir Technical Training Institute. And J, Jubilee Party, my former party, Honorable Speaker. 2, Honorable Speaker, the Bank Supervision Annual Report for the year 2020 from Central Bank of Kenya. 3, the Performance Audit Report on Management of Blood Transfusion Services from the Office of the Auditor General for August 2022. 4, the Forensic Audit Report on the National Optic Fiber Backbone Infrastructure and IP-based HI Path 4000 network projects from the Auditor General for August 2022. 5, the annual report and financial statements in respect of the following institutions for the financial year 2021-2022. 1, the Kenya Bank Association, the Public Service Commission, and the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC. Thank you.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Member for Kakamega County, Els Muhanda.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give a notice of motion that aware that school meals are an important safety net for vulnerable children from food insecure households and communities in Kenya, appreciating that school meals have multiple benefits, such as increased school enrollments and attendance, as well as a significant and positive contribution to reducing hunger and nutritional intake. Noting that Primary school completion rates have been found to be higher in schools with meals. Thus, school meals remain a core development intervention to support the country's achievements in the education sector. Recognizing that some county governments have adopted direct and community-led initiatives for ECDE, school feeding programs, concerned that the exercise is not supported with clear policy and budgetary framework and does not support pupils in the primary and secondary schools who all forms the basic education ecosystem. Cognizant of the fact that provision of school meal programs where they have been initiated encounters different challenges impeding their effectiveness, including, number one, insufficient resources due to low budgetary allocation and cuts. Number two, lack of school feeding policy. Number three, inadequate safe cooking and drinking water. Number four, drought and famine. Number five, introduction of food by pests, destruction, of food by pests. Number six, lengthy and slow procurement process. And number seven, insecurity and dilapidated infrastructure. This House resolves that the Ministry of Education, through the relevant state department, to immediately develop a school feeding policy to cover basic education pupils and proposes budgetary allocation to sustain the program in order to ensure that children are maintained in schools for effective learning. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member, next is Honorable Ali Wario Guyo, member for Garsen.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I seek the definite adjournment matters of national importance regarding the ravaging drought in most part of the country. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 33-1, I raise to seek leave for adjournment of the House in order to discuss a definite matter of national importance regarding ravaging drought situation in most parts of the country. Honorable Speaker, due to the late onset of long rain and depressed rainfall amounts exhibited by climate change across the country, the drought situation in the country has continued to worsen. According to the National Drought Management Authority, more arid and semi-arid counties of Tana River, Turkana, Kilifi, Mandera, Garissa, Wajir, Kwale, Marsabit, Kitui, Baringo, Makueni, Isiolo, West Pokot, Samburu, Meru, Laikipia, Lamu, Taita Taveta, Kajiado, Tharaka Nithi, Embu, Nyeri, and Narok are sliding into the alarm phase of drought. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek leave of the House to discuss this matter of national concern. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You need 20 members to support your request.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Other members, I'm satisfied that you have the requisite number.
Thank you.
I'll designate this motion to be debated from 6 o'clock.
Mr. Speaker, do 5, Mr. Speaker. This is very important, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, we can debate this motion from 5 to 7.
Order number 7, questions and statements. Order number 8, motion. appointment of
Go back to order number 7. Member for Bumula.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You may need to protect me from the Honorable Elisha, who is trying to monoloze me, but it may not be possible, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise under Standing Order number 83 to discuss the whereabouts of a member of this House, the MP Sirisia, Honorable John Koi Waluke. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Waluke was arrested some years ago. Was taken to court, Mr. Speaker, and was charged.
Honorable Amboka, before you proceed, just remember that the Honorable Waluke being a member of this House, you must navigate what you want to say very carefully, because you cannot discuss the conduct or the person of a member of the House without a substantive motion.
The conduct of Honorable Waluke.
The conduct or the person?
Mr. Speaker,
Go on.
as members of this House, we must be concerned, Mr. Waluke, Mr. Speaker, when one of us has issues around them. And on this, I want to indulge members to move with me, because today we are discussing Honorable Waluke. Tomorrow we will talk about another member of this House. Mr. Speaker, there is a very dangerous trend that is happening in this country. I do not understand why Honorable Waluke has been jailed for 70 years, Honorable Speaker, or to pay $1 billion, Mr. Speaker, whereas there are other members of this country who have had issues. And as we speak, Mr. Speaker, today, if you are aligned to a certain side of this country, it doesn't matter whether you have a case or not, but that case will be withdrawn. In mind, Mr. Chumo, MD of Kenya Power, his case was withdrawn, among others. The Honorable Aisha Juma, her case has been withdrawn. The Honorable former Governor Samburu has been withdrawn. Waititu case +5, Zachariah Mbugwa, Joyce Ngina, among others, has been withdrawn. Mr. Speaker, I don't understand why Honorable Waluke is still facing persecutions. I don't understand why Honorable Kimunya's case has resurfaced from nowhere. Mr. Speaker, I want to put a case.
Order, Honorable Amboka. Order. Honorable Amboka, the Honorable Waluke has been convicted by a competent court of law. That's number one. Number two, the end of his appeal is still a matter which is within the realm of possible appeal by himself to the next court. 3, court's cases are dealt with and decided on each individual case merit. You cannot say that because somebody else was let to go, everybody else should, or vice versa. So like I told you, you are engaged in very, very dangerous swim in dangerous waters. And I want to encourage you, if you wanted to raise empathy with the Honorable Waluke, you are free to do so. But if you want to question the competence of the courts that dealt with the case, then you have no capacity to do so here.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of Sirisia people, Bungoma County, and Kenyans at large, who feel perhaps targeted and sidelined, I want to empathize. I want to be in the shoes of the Honorable John Koi Waluke. I want him to know that he is not alone. I want him to know that he is not a child of a lesser God. And I want him to know that we stand with him, and this too shall pass, Honorable Speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I was struggling to listen to the gist of what the member for Bumula was asking the House, and you properly guided him. But Honorable Speaker, when you did guide him, he has neither withdrawn the tirade he had against the judiciary or any of the other sentiments that he had expressed that bordered on matters that are sub judice, because, Honorable Speaker, as you have properly guided him, and I thought it would only have been in order, since we are a house of records, that the member for Bumula withdraws the short tirade he had mentioning people who are not in this house, like the Honorable Kimunya and others, and allow them to handle their matters before the judiciary. And I think, Honorable Speaker, he just changed tangent and now pretended to be with the people of Sirisia, while the member for Bumula has not even stood in his place to even thank the people of Bumula for electing him. Now he pretends to be speaking on behalf of the people of Sirisia, who also have elected a member of parliament. And it's only fair that the member for Bumula rises in his place and withdraws everything from the record that he had touching on cases that are before competent courts of law and that are being adjudicated in courts of law. Because, Honorable Speaker, as we said from the beginning, we should not use this chamber. And you know, we enjoy certain privileges as members of parliament, but we must never be seen to be using this chamber to disparage other institutions or even persons who cannot defend themselves here. And I think the honorable member for Bumula was completely out of order, and he ought to have withdrawn the earlier tirade before he changed tangent to now pretend that he speaks for the people of Bumula and Sirisia combined. Sirisia is an independent constituency from Bumula. As much as you are in the same county, you cannot pretend that you speak for the people of Sirisia, member for Bumula.
Will not elicit any debate, and I want to advise members that actually, if you really care for the Honorable Waluke, support his lawyers to go to the Court of Appeal and fight for his rights in the Court of Appeal, which is still available to him. Next order. I'm not opening any debate. Let's
Order number 8.
let where they fail.
Order number 8, motion. Appointment of members to the Committee on Selection.
Order, honorable members. The motion was debated, and what was left was putting the question. At the time the House rose, there were not enough members to vote on the motion. Now we are satisfied that we have enough members, and I'll now put the question. That pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 172, this House approves the appointment of the following members to the Committee on selection in addition to those specified under paragraphs A and B of Standing Order 172. The Honorable Eric Karemba Muchangi Njiru, MP. The Honorable John Kiari Waweru, MP. The Honorable Beatrice Kahai Adagala, MP. The Honorable Japheth Miriti Kareke Mbuki, CBS, MP. The Honorable Julius Kibiwot Meli, MP. The Honorable Silvanos Osoro Onyengo, MP. The Honorable Mother Wangari Wanjira, MP. The Honorable Dr. Robert Pukose, MP. The Honorable Lea Sopiato Sankaire, MP. The Honorable Anne Muratha Wanjiku Mugo, MP. The Honorable Caroline Chepto Ngelichei, MP. The Honorable Joseph Majimbo Kalasinga, MP. The Honorable Junet Mohammed, CBS, MP. The Honorable Joshua Kimilu, MP. The Honorable Jessica Mbalu, MP. The Honorable Julia Sunguli, EGH, MP. The Honorable Samuel Arama, MP. The Honorable Ken Chonga, MP. The Honorable Nabi Nabwera, MP. The Honorable Umulkhair Harun, MP. And the Honorable Ali Wario Guyo, MP. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, motion. Appointment of the chairperson's panel.
Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of Article 107(1)(c) of the Constitution and Standing Order number 16, that this House approves the appointment of the following members to the chairperson's panel. 1, the Honorable Mother Wangari, MP, first chairperson of committees. 2, the Honorable David Ochieng, MP, second chairperson of the committees. 3, the Honorable Omboko Milemba, MP, third chairperson of the committees. 4, the Honorable Farah Maalim, MP, fourth chairperson of committees. 5, the Honorable Peter Kaluma, MP, fifth chairperson of committees. And 6, the Honorable Dr. Rachel Nyamai, MP, as the sixth chairperson of the committees. Honorable Speaker, as members are aware, having elected our Speaker and Deputy Speaker, we are required under our standing orders to elect, in a way, another person to preside over the House pursuant to Article 107(1)(c), as I've said, Honorable Speaker, and if you allow me, the Article 107 deals with presiding in Parliament and provides for that the Speaker shall provide over all sittings of the House, and in his absence, the Deputy Speaker. And if they are both not there, in the absence of the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker, 1(c), another member of the House elected by the House presides. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, what we are doing now in approval of this panel is basically equivalent to an election of the persons who would be presiding over the House in the absence of the Speaker or the Deputy Speaker. Honorable Speaker, you are aware that previously the Speaker would simply pick any member in the chamber to preside on his behalf, but subsequently, under Standing Order number 16, we created that proviso that we can now institutionalize the panel of chairpersons to help the speakership in ensuring that there is seamless presiding over of the House in the absence of the Speaker or the Deputy Speaker. Honorable Speaker, again, in line with the same Standing Order 16, those who served with us in the 12th Parliament and in the 11th Parliament, you remember we had 4 chairpersons, and now under the 6th edition of the Standing Orders, you realize that we have 6 members now to, in the 13th Parliament to preside the House in the absence of both, as I said, of both the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, by merely approving this list of chairpersons, it will be deemed under Article 107(1)(c) and our own standing orders that we have, in effect, elected the 6 persons that are listed on the order paper and as I have read out. And all these members, Honorable Speaker, you realize are ranking members. The Honorable Kaluma, the Honorable David Ochieng, the Honorable Mother Wangari, Honorable Dr. Rachel Nyamai are all serving their 3rd terms in Parliament. The Honorable Omboko Milemba, who is right behind me, is also doing his 2nd term and has been a very diligent member in the last Parliament when he first joined the House in the 12th Parliament. It's also important, Honorable Speaker, to note that the Honorable Farah Maalim, besides who was a candidate for Deputy Speaker, and besides being a candidate for Deputy Speaker, the Honorable Farah Maalim is serving his 3rd term, and he's served this House as Deputy Speaker in the 10th Parliament, where he served as Member of Parliament. He also served as a Deputy Speaker under Speaker Marende. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I'll just ask members to support these members that we propose for election or for approval by the House as members of the Speaker's panel. And honorable members, for the benefit of our new members, I know and I see Honorable Farah Maalim had not seen where he was seated, as I paid accolades to him, being a seasoned veteran of the House. I was saying, Honorable Speaker, for the benefit of our new members of Parliament, this panel of chairpersons are the people basically who preside over during the 3rd reading. And I am sure during induction, we all went through the stages of legislation. And the most important stage of legislation is not the 2nd reading where we debate or the plenary. The most important stage in legislation or in legislative matters is the 3rd reading. And these chairpersons are the ones who preside over the House during the 3rd reading. And I really want to encourage our first-time members of Parliament who are serving for their first time in this 13th Assembly, please take your time when we begin real business. I know members have been very eager to make their maiden speeches now, in this season when there isn't much business to transact other than the procedural motions and the few other motions that we have done. But when we come to actual legislation and legislative work in the enactment of bills, that work, besides what happens in the committees, the bulk of the work, the actual legislation is done in the 3rd reading. Please take your time. Be present during the 3rd reading. There have been tendencies, especially in the 12th and the 11th Parliament, where I was fortunate to have served, for members immediately after the chairperson takes seat for 3rd reading, you see a whole mass of people walking out. I would beg that we take time. And Honorable Speaker, without naming names, I will remember an incident where in the 11th Parliament we changed legislation during 3rd reading to create the proviso that was just declared unconstitutional by the courts to require members of Parliament who qualify, people who qualify to be elected as members of Parliament, to be people who are university graduates. And half of the people who are not university graduates who didn't hold a degree were seated in this chamber. Others were enjoying their cup of tea at the members' lounge. And I remember immediately after we finished, one member who I don't want to name because they are not in this house today, Honorable Speaker, came running back asking, and I quote, "Imepitia wapi?" Honorable Speaker, I do not want to say that there will be any mischief in the kind of bills that we will pass. But please, I pray that nobody will come running back to the chamber asking, "Ilipitia wapi?" Ama ilipitishwa bunge gani? And you are seated here. So please be active participants in the 3rd reading and support these chairpersons. They are all, as I have said, they are all very seasoned parliamentarians. And I want to assure them from the House leadership, both in the majority party and in the minority party, because as in line with our standing orders, The Speaker, in constituting this panel, did consult with the leaders of both the majority and the minority parties, and they have our unequivocal support, and we will support all the 6 chairpersons. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, is just to the chairpersons to indicate that as much as the Honorable Farah Maalim ran for Deputy Speaker against the substantive Deputy Speaker today, the Honorable Mboko Milemba is from ANC political party, Farah Maalim is from Wiper, Honorable Kaluma is from ODM, Honorable Nyamai is from Jubilee. We have Honorable David Ochieng, who is a party leader of his own party in the Kenya Kwanza Alliance. And I'm saying all this because as much as the Honorable Speaker has balanced the political representation across the floor, these chairpersons do not come to serve the House as members who represent their political parties or affiliated to any coalition. When they sit to preside over the House, they preside on behalf of the Speaker, who is not aligned to any political coalition. And I would really beg on all these 6 chairpersons, when you take charge, please be impartial, be objective, and allow all members a fair opportunity to be heard and to articulate their issues. With those very many remarks, let me have the honor to now move this motion and request the Honorable Pio Wandai to second.
Mr. Speaker, allow me to second the motion for the adoption of or the approval of the proposed members, the chairperson's panel. And just to echo again what the Honorable Chungwa has said, I have no doubt whatsoever in my mind that these honorable members, the 6 of them, do qualify to serve in those capacities. Mr. Speaker, I must also appreciate the fact that this is a result of very intensive consultation, which I am told has happened for the first time since the advent of the new constitution, that both sides of the House at least had a say or an opinion on who eventually ended up as being proposed to sit in that exalted panel. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, as you can see from the representation, these are members who represent diverse backgrounds and interests, for that matter. I just hope that immediately they assume office, as indeed we wish they do, they will move quickly to engender confidence from amongst members in themselves, because these are members who will be not only presiding over the 3rd reading or the committee stage of business of the House, but they'll also, many times, they're actually sitting to preside over the general business of the House as speakers, in the absence of the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker. In the morning, Mr. Speaker, I did raise an issue whilst your deputy was on the seat. I do hope that these persons who are now coming on board as members of the chairperson's panel will take note of what I had mentioned in the morning, that members want to see fairness by whoever is presiding over the business of the House at any one given time. Because members have complained a lot that many times they feel they are being skipped whilst they are queuing to make contributions. That's an issue I'm sure they will be able to deal with, so that members have the confidence that whoever is presiding is exercising fairness, equity, and generally sound judgment, so that they get an opportunity to communicate not only to the country, but to their constituents. Otherwise, I have got no doubt whatsoever that these are persons, honorable persons, who will deliver on their new mandate. Thank you. I second.
Honorable members, order. Honorable members, I now propose the question that pursuant to the provisions of Article 107(1)(c) of the Constitution and Standing Order 16, this House approves the appointment of the following members to the Chairperson's panel. 1, the Honorable Martha Wangari MP, first Chairperson of committees. 2, the Honorable David Ocheng, second Chairperson of committees. 3, the Honorable Mboko Milemba, third Chairperson of committees. 4, the Honorable Farah Maalim MP, fourth Chairperson. 5, the Honorable Peter Kaluma MP, fifth Chairperson of committees, and the Honorable Dr. Rachel Nyamai MP, sixth Chairperson of committees. Honorable members, there being no interest in debating this motion, I'll now put the question that pursuant to the provisions of Article 107(1)(c) of the Constitution and Standing Order 16, this House approves the appointment of the following members to the Chairperson's panel. 1, the Honorable Martha Wangari MP, first Chairperson of committees. 2, the Honorable David Ocheng MP, second Chairperson of committees. 3, the Honorable Mboko Milemba MP, third Chairperson of committees. 4, the Honorable Farah Maalim MP, fourth Chairperson of committees. 5, the Honorable Peter Kaluma MP, fifth Chairperson of committees. And 6, the Honorable Dr. Rachel Nyamai MP, sixth Chairperson of committees. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Those of the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. And honorable members, the committee at Order 8, the Committee on Appointments that was approved, debated in the morning and approved a few minutes ago, will meet tomorrow, Thursday, October 13th, 2022, at 11 a.m. at Count Hall Mini Chamber to get a briefing on their work and consider the vetting schedule for them to start vetting the cabinet nominees on Monday. The members that we've just approved, the Chairperson's panel, will meet tomorrow, Thursday, 13th October 2022 at 10 a.m. in the Speaker's boardroom. Thank you. Next order.
Order number 10, motion. Approval of the calendar of the House.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to move that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order number 28, this House approves the calendar of the National Assembly, regular sessions for the first session of 2022 as contained in the schedule to the order paper. Honorable Speaker, members will see the last page of the order paper is a schedule that has our House calendar, and the House Business Committee that we approved yesterday, and we had a meeting immediately after approval by the House, has proposed that we have a total of 33 sittings or 10 weeks, excluding any special sittings or joint sittings, and any other additional sittings as may be approved by the House. In this first session that runs from the time we came in September, on 29th of September, to December 1st of this year. Honorable Speaker, members are aware that the first session is usually guided by various business and activities, including some of what we have already done, the induction workshop that we did with members of the new House at Safari Park earlier this last month, Honorable Speaker. Formation of House committees, Honorable Speaker, which with the passage or with the approval that we've just done of the Selections Committee, this now will be able to commence. The approval of cabinet secretaries and other state officers, as may be relayed to us by His Excellency the President. And again, with the approval of the Appointments Committee, that will now be able to commence. Honorable Speaker, there is also the appointment of commissioners whose terms may have expired, and the election of the bicameral election of members to the IALA Legislative Assembly, or any other urgent government business that may require consideration by the House. And that is what will largely guide our business in this first session to the 1st of December, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it's also worth noting in the calendar that we have laid out, members will note, schools are likely to close, or the school calendar for this third term runs until around the 25th of November, and when students break on school holidays to the 2nd of January. And Honorable Speaker, looking around, you realize, Honorable Speaker, that this 13th Assembly has quite a number of young parents who have young children who will be breaking for their school holidays. And these members, Honorable Speaker, had a very rough time during the election campaigns. And they seriously need that short break in December to spend time with their children and to be able to bond with their children during the school holidays. And I want to encourage members. Honorable Speaker, I am being reminded by the member for Katanga, Wakili Mureu, it is not just bonding with their children, but also with their wives. And because of the 2/3 gender rule, to also allow our distinguished lady colleagues to bond more effectively with their husbands and also their children. And those who may want to Honorable Speaker, let me not get into what I am being persuaded to get into, and just say that I was saying it is important. I really want to encourage those of us who are young parents. Spend time with your life partners, your children, and don't forget your other bigger children, your constituents. This is a time when you take the break in December. It's the first long break that you will have to be able to go back to your constituency and organize affairs at the constituency level. So this calendar has taken into consideration all those things, that right after the campaign, you have a very busy session, almost these 2 months to the 1st of December, the whole of this month and next month. We intend to take a short break, Honorable Speaker, of about 10 days from tomorrow, the 14th, Honorable Speaker, to the 24th of October. We will take a short recess. As I indicated, Honorable Speaker, this is a short and busy working recess, especially for those members who have been appointed to the Appointments Committee and the Selections Committee on Selections, because it is during this recess that we intend to vet the cabinet secretaries and other state officers who have been nominated by His Excellency the President. The Selections Committee will place our members in their various committees, so that by the time we resume on the 25th of October, Tuesday 25th in the afternoon, we expect that hopefully these two committees will have completed their work and be able to table their reports on the vetting of cabinet secretaries, and also have placed the report from the Committee on Selections on placement of members to their various committees. Honorable Speaker, this calendar also takes us to the next session, because we will resume as guided by the standing orders, probably, I think on the second Tuesday, I think, of February next year. So when you take a break in January, when your children go back to school on the 2nd of January, and you are left with your wives at home, and the other children, our constituents, we must then spend much more time with our husbands, our wives, and our constituents in the course of January, as we release our children to go back to school. And the House Business Committee was considered all these things in agreeing on the dates. So we have another 1 month for further bonding. I encourage members, this is the time again, because when we resume in the first sitting next year, you'll be extremely busy. The budget cycle will have started. Those who will be lucky to be nominated to the budget committee, those who will be in the finance committee, and all our departmental committees, you'll be very busy between the months of, between end of January, early February, all the way to June. And I'm saying this to encourage, especially our new members, to know if you do not spend time in your constituency during this long recess, you may lose touch with the ground, and as the saying goes, by the time you go, zapata mambo kwa ground ni tofauti. End of quote. Therefore, with those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I want to beg the House that we do support this calendar and we pass it as it is. It's largely guided by our standing orders in terms of when the House sits, when it closes, and when we reopen. Therefore, it's not something that we had a lot of prerogative on. Is very well guided by our standing orders, including that the standing orders stipulate that the House sittings will end on the first Thursday in December. And the first Thursday in December happens to be on the 1st of December. I think it's the first time in the last two parliaments that I'm seen as break that early. Usually either on the second week of December or around the 10th, 11th there. So we are lucky this 13th parliament will have more time, as I said, to bond. Let me, Honorable Speaker, with all due respect, request the Honorable Naomi, our Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I second this motion on proposed calendar for the National Assembly. And Mr. Speaker, I just want to add a bit as I second that this proposed calendar seems to have taken care of our interest. We are just from elections. Many people are still tired, but this calendar has taken care of our interest. We will soon go back to our constituencies and be with our people as we also bond with our family later as we come to the end of the year. So I second this motion. Thank you.
Honourable members, I propose the question, which is that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 28, this House approves the calendar of the National Assembly regular sessions for the first session 2022 as contained in the schedule to the order paper. There being no contributors to the motion, I'll put the question that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 28, this House approves the calendar of the National Assembly regular sessions for the first session 2022 as contained in the schedule to the order paper. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 11, procedural motion. Limitation of debate on bills sponsored by parties or committees.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 97-1, this House orders that each speech in a debate on bills sponsored by a committee, the leader of the majority party or the leader of the minority party be limited as follows. A maximum of 45 minutes for the mover in moving and 15 minutes in replying. A maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee if the bill is not sponsored by the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each if the bill is not sponsored by either one of them. And that priority in speaking be accorded to the leader of the majority party, the leader of the minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. Honorable Speaker, this being a procedural motion, I beg to move and request the Honorable Owen Bayer to second.
Mr. Speaker, sir, this being a procedural motion, I second.
Honourable members, I propose the question that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 971, this House orders that each speech in a debate on bills sponsored by a committee, the leader of the majority party or the leader of the minority party, be limited as follows: a maximum of 45 minutes for the mover in moving and 15 minutes in replying, a maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee if the bill is not sponsored by the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking except the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each if the bill is not sponsored by either of them, and that priority in speaking be accorded to the leader of the majority party, the leader of the minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant committee, departmental committee, in that order. There being no interested contributors to the motion, I'll now put the question that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 971, this House orders that each speech in a debate on bills sponsored by a committee, the leader of the majority party or the leader of the minority party, be limited as follows: a maximum of 45 minutes for the mover in moving and 15 minutes in replying, a maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee if the bill is not sponsored by the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking except the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each if the bill is not sponsored by either of them, and that priority in speaking be accorded to the leader of the majority party, the leader of the minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee, in that order. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 12, procedural motion. Limitation of debate on individual members' bills.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. At times I'm very good, Honorable Speaker, in reading the mood. And I can read the mood of the members is to quickly pass these procedural motions so that we go to the adjournment motion on the drought, because that is the issue that touches on many of our constituents. And therefore beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 97-1, this House orders that each speech in a debate on bills not sponsored by a committee, the leader of the majority party or the leader of the minority party, be limited as follows: a maximum of 3 hours and 30 minutes with not more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 10 minutes in replying, a maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that priority in speaking be accorded to the leader of the majority party, the leader of the minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee, in that order. I want to request the Honorable Opio and I to second.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second, and this being a procedural motion, there's really nothing much to say about it. The only thing, perhaps, Mr. Speaker, regarding the earlier motion that was approved by the House, I take it that that is a tentative calendar of the House. Yeah, because it can still change. Why do I say so? Mr. Speaker, you know, traditionally, members go on Christmas recess or December recess, long recess, primarily, of course, to celebrate, but also to carry out inspection of development projects financed by the NGCDF. So that may not happen this time around, because as we speak, no single cent has been released in the financial year 2022-2023. So I do hope that even as we adopt this motion, which talks about limitation of debate, and as we proceed to with the calendar as approved earlier on, work will be done by the relevant committee to ensure that we have monies, NGCDF monies, in the constituency accounts. That has to happen Otherwise, we may have to come back and review that calendar. You know, members, for those of you who are new, it is pointless going home for 1 month if there's no CDF project to go and inspect. You will become irrelevant, you will become redundant, and will be basically preparing the path for your going back home eventually when the elections are called. Thank you. I second.
Honorable members, I now propose the question that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 971, this House orders that each speech in a debate on bills not sponsored by a committee, the leader of the majority party or the leader of the minority party, be limited as follows. A maximum of 3 hours and 30 minutes, with not more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 10 minutes in replying. A maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that priority in speaking be accorded to the leader of the majority party, the leader of the minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. There being no interest in debating the motion, I put the question that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 971, this House orders that each speech in a debate on bills not sponsored by a committee, the leader of the majority party or the leader of the minority party, be limited as follows. A maximum of 3 hours and 30 minutes, with not more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 10 minutes in replying. A maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that priority in speaking be accorded to the leader of the majority party, the leader of the minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 13, procedural motion. Limitation of debate on reports of audit committees.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to move that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 97.1, this House orders that each speech in debate on reports of audit committees be limited as follows. A maximum of 60 minutes for the mover in moving and 30 minutes in replying, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking except the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that priority be accorded to the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party in that order. Honorable Speaker, I think a departure from all the other procedural motions, members will note that this particular procedural motion is giving the mover a whole hour, 60 minutes, because this is on reports by either the Public Accounts Committee, the Public Investments Committee, the Special Lines Funds Committee, and other audit committees, to be able to ensure that many of these reports, which are usually very bulky, the chairperson or whoever is moving the committee's report has adequate time to articulate all the issues that have been raised by the Auditor General and what the committee has considered and their decisions on each of the issues that have been raised. Honorable Speaker, I want to ask the member for Muhoroni to second.
Honorable Speaker, I second. Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Members, I propose the question, which is that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 971, this House orders that each speech in debate on reports of all audit committees be limited as follows. A maximum of 60 minutes for the mover in moving and 30 minutes in replying, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking except the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that priority be accorded to the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party in that order. There being no interest in debating the motion, I'll now put the question that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 971, this House orders that each speech in the debate on reports of audit committees be limited as follows. A maximum of 60 minutes for the mover in moving and 30 minutes in replying, and a maximum of 10 minutes for each other member speaking, except the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that priority be accorded to the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party in that order. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 14, procedural motion, limitation of debate on other committee reports.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 97-1, this House orders that each speech in a debate on other committee reports, including a report of the Joint Committee of the House of Parliament or any other report submitted to the House for which limitation of time has not been specified, shall be limited as follows. A maximum of 2.5 hours with not more than 20 minutes for the mover in moving and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party and the chairpersons of the relevant committee, if the committee report is not moved by the chairperson of the relevant committee. And that 10 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and further, that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of the majority party and leader of the minority party in that order. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Who is second?
I would like to request the MP for Voi Town to second.
Mr. Speaker, this being a procedural motion, I support. I second.
Honorable members, I now propose the question, which is that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 971, this House orders that each speech in a debate on other committee reports, including a report of a joint committee of the House of the Houses of Parliament, or any other report submitted to the House for which limitation of time has not been specified, shall be limited as follows. A maximum of 2.5 hours with not more than 20 minutes for the mover in moving and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant committee if the committee report is not moved by the chairperson of the relevant committee, and that 10 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply. And further, that the priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party in that order. There being no interest in debating the motion, I now put the question that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 971, this House orders that each speech in a debate on other committee reports, including a report of a joint committee of the Houses of Parliament or any other report submitted to the House, for which limitation of time has not been specified, shall be limited as follows. A maximum of 2.5 hours with not more than 20 minutes for the mover in moving and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant committee if the committee report is not moved by the chairperson of the relevant committee, and 10 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and further, that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party in that order. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order. Order 15.
Order number 15, procedural motion. Limitation of debate on sessional papers.
Speaker has not called me. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that, pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 97-1, this House orders that each speech in a debate on any sessional paper shall be limited as follows. A maximum of 2.5 hours with not more than 20 minutes for the mover in moving and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader of majority and leader of the minority party and the chairpersons of the relevant committee if the sessional paper is not moved by the chairperson of the relevant committee. And that 10 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and further, that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of majority party and the leader of the minority party in that order. I'll request the MP from Nyari Barichache, Zahir, to second.
Honorable Speaker, I second.
Honorable members, I propose the question that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 97-1, this House orders that each speech in debate on any session or paper shall be limited as follows. A maximum of 2.5 hours with not more than 20 minutes for the mover in moving and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant committee if the sessional paper is not moved by the chairperson of the relevant committee. And that 10 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and further, that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party in that order. There being no interest in debating the motion, I put the question that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 97-1, this House orders that each speech in a debate on any session or paper shall be limited as follows. A maximum of 2.5 hours with not more than 20 minutes for the mover in moving and 5 minutes for any other members speaking, including the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant committee if the session or paper is not moved by the chairperson of the relevant committee. And that 10 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and further that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party in that order. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order, order 16.
Order number 16, procedural motion. Limitation of debate on reports of constitutional commissions and independent officers.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 97-1, this House orders that each speech in debate on the reports of constitutional commissions and independent offices be limited as follows. A maximum of 4 hours with not more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 10 minutes in replying, a maximum of 30 minutes for the chairpersons of the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except for the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each. And that priority be accorded to the chairpersons of the relevant committees, the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party in that order. I request the MP for Manyata to second.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, our Deputy Majority Leader, for this chance. We are still getting used to this house. We are still looking around. I want to second this motion. Thank you very much.
Why are you looking around, honorable member? Honorable members, I now propose the question that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 97-1, this House orders that each speech in debate on the reports of constitutional commissions and independent officers be limited as follows. A maximum of 4 hours with not more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 10 minutes in replying. A maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking except the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that priority be accorded to the chairperson of the relevant committee, the leader of the majority party, and the leader of the minority party in that order. There being no interest in debating the motion, I'll now put the question that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 97-1, this House orders that each speech in debate on reports of constitutional commissions and independent officers be limited as follows. A maximum of 4 hours with not more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 10 minutes in replying, and a maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking except the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that priority be accorded to the chairperson of the relevant committee, the leader of the majority party, and the leader of the minority party in that order. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order, number 17.
Order number 17, procedural motion. Limitation of debate on the annual estimates and committee of supply.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 97-1, this House orders that each speech in a debate on the reports of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on budget estimates contemplated under Standing Orders 239 and 240 be limited as follows. 1. General supply debate. A maximum of 3 sitting days with 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 15 minutes in replying, a maximum of 15 minutes for each of the chairpersons of the departmental committees, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking except the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each. And that priority in speaking be accorded to the leader of the majority party, the leader of the minority party, and the respective chairpersons of the departmental committee in the order that they appear in the second schedule to the standing orders. And 2, committee of supply. A maximum of 6 sitting days for the consideration of the proposed allocations to the respective votes programs in the order specified in the schedule submitted by the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Honorable Speaker, in the spirit of gender, I would like to request Marianne Kaitan to, thank you. The MP for Aldai. 2 seconds.
Honorable Speaker, I second.
Honorable members, I now propose the question that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 97-1, this House orders that each speech in a debate on the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on budget estimates contemplated under Standing Orders 239 and 240 be limited as follows. 1, general supply debate. A maximum of 3 sitting days with 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 15 minutes in replying. A maximum of 15 minutes for each of the chairpersons of the departmental committees, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking except the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that priority in speaking be accorded to the leader of the majority party, the leader of the minority party, and the respective chairpersons of the departmental committees in the order that they appear in the second schedule to the standing orders. And 2, on committee of supply, a maximum of 6 sitting days for the consideration of the proposed allocations to the respective votes and programs in the order specified in schedules submitted by the Budget and Appropriations Committee. There being no interest in debating the motion, I'll put the question that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 971, this House orders that each speech in a debate on the reports of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the budget estimates contemplated under Standing Order 239 and 240 be limited as follows. 1. General supply debate, a maximum of 3 sitting days, with 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 15 minutes in replying, a maximum of 15 minutes for each of the chairpersons of the departmental committees, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking except the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that priority in speaking be accorded to the leader of the majority party, the leader of the minority party, and the respective chairpersons of the departmental committees in the order that they appear in the second schedule to the standing orders. And 2, Committee of Supply, a maximum of 6 sitting days for the consideration of the proposed allocations to the respective votes and programs in the order specified in the schedule submitted by the Budget and Appropriations Committee. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order, number 18.
Procedural motion. Limitation of debate on Senate amendments to bills originating in the National Assembly.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 97-1, this House orders that each speech in the general debate contemplated under Standing Order 146, that is consideration of Senate amendments to bills originating in the National Assembly, be limited as follows. A maximum of 1 hour and 30 minutes, with not more than 15 minutes for the mover in moving, 15 minutes for the chairpersons of the relevant departmental committee, and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, if the bill is not party-sponsored. And that 5 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply. And further, that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of the majority party, the leader of the minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. I request the MP, Honorable Member of Parliament for Tetu, to second.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, this being a procedural motion and in view of good use of the House of this time on the limitation of debate on the Senate amendments to bills originating in the National Assembly, I second.
Honourable members, I propose the question, which is that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 971, this House orders that each speech in the general debate contemplated under Standing Order 146, consideration of Senate amendments to bills originating in the National Assembly, be limited as follows. A maximum of 1 hour and 30 minutes, with not more than 15 minutes for the mover in moving, 15 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee, and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, if the bill is not party-sponsored, and that 5 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and further that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of the majority party, the leader of the minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. There being no interest in debating the motion, I'll now put the question. That pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 971, this House orders that each speech in the general debate contemplated under Standing Order 146, in brackets, consideration of the Senate amendments to bills originating in the National Assembly, be limited as follows. A maximum of 1 hour and 30 minutes, with not more than 15 minutes for the mover in moving and 15 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee, and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader of the majority party, the leader of the minority party, if the bill is not party-sponsored, and that 5 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and further, that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of the majority party, the leader of the minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order, number 19.
Procedural motion. Consideration of certain business received during recess periods.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move that, notwithstanding the provision of Standing Order 41 and 42 relating to conveying of message from the Senate and from the President or the National Executive, this House orders that during the short and long recess of the first session, upon receipt of any messages from the Senate or upon receipt of any name of a person nominated for appointment to a state or public office from the President or any other office in the National Executive, the Speaker shall forthwith refer such messages to the relevant committee for consideration without having to recall the House and report such fact to the House on resumption. And 2, upon receipt of any message from the relevant message relating to the Senate amendment to a bill originating in the National Assembly, the Speaker shall forthwith refer the schedule of the Senate amendment to the relevant committees for consideration pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 145, that is Senate amendments to the bills originating in the National Assembly, and report such fact to the House on resumption. Honorable Speaker, I would like to request the MP for Keio South to second.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This being a procedural motion on the consideration of certain business received during the recess period, I second. Thank you.
Honourable members, as I propose this motion, I want to direct the member for Bura that after this motion, we'll bring forward your time for moving the motion of adjournment, and we'll start with your motion immediately hereafter. Honourable members, I propose the question that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 41 and 42 relating to conveying of messages from the Senate and from the President of the National Executive, this House orders that during the short and long recess of the first session, 1, upon receipt of any message from the Senate or upon receipt of any name of a person nominated for appointment to a state or public office from the President or any other office in the National Executive, the Speaker shall forthwith refer such message to the relevant committee for consideration without having to recall the House, and upon such fact to the House on resumption. And and report such fact to the House for on resumption. And 2, upon receipt of any messages relating to the Senate's amendments to a bill originating in the National Assembly, the Speaker shall forthwith refer the schedule of the Senate amendments to the relevant committee for consideration pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 145, Senate amendments to bills originating in the National Assembly, and report such fact to the House on resumption. There being no interest in debating the motion, I put the question that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 41 and 42 relating to conveying of messages from the Senate and from the President of the National Executive, this House orders that during the short and long recess of the first session, upon receipt of any message from the Senate or upon receipt of any name of a person nominated for appointment to a state or public office from the President or any other office in the National Executive, the Speaker shall forthwith refer such message to the relevant committee for consideration without having to recall the House and report such fact to the House on resumption. And 2, upon receipt of any message relating to the Senate's amendment to a bill originating in the National Assembly, the Speaker shall forthwith refer the schedule of the Senate amendments to the relevant committee for consideration, and pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 145, Senate amendments to bills originating in the National Assembly, and report such fact to the House on resumption. As members of that opinion say aye. As men of the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Honorable members, we will now go back to order number 6, and this will relate to the motion of adjournment to which authority has been granted to the member for Bura. Garsen, not Bura. I'm sorry, Mheshimiwa, but you are neighbors. And call upon the honorable member to move the motion. Honorable members, it means that this motion will run from now 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. You have how many hours? And honorable members, under Standing Order 34, contribution to such motion is limited to 5 minutes for every member. So when you are called upon to contribute, compose your messages, focus your contribution, and deal with the issue. And remember, the issue is drought ravaging the country in many, many parts of our country, particularly the northern parts of Kenya, the eastern parts of Kenya, the coast of Kenya. Welcome, member for Garsen, to move your motion.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, the cumulative impact of 4 consecutive poor rainy seasons has caused ravaging drought and hunger to rapidly rise in the country.
And member, you have 10 minutes for moving the motion.
Thank you. The cumulative impact of 4 consecutive poor rainy seasons has caused ravaging drought and hunger to rapidly rise in the country, especially in arid and semi-arid lands, regions of Kenya. This has resulted in an estimated 3.5 million experiencing acute food insecurity and in urgent need of humanitarian assistance. A 5th consecutive poor rainy seasons could prove disastrous, Mr. Speaker, sir. Honorable Speaker, the household food security continues in deteriorate with 942 children aged between 6 and 95 months, pregnant and lactating mothers, acutely malnourished and in need of treatment. Livestock deaths driven by drought have been reported in most parts of ASAL counties. The general increase in most consumer goods continues to weaken the purchasing power of most consumer goods, worsening the food security situation. Call to action in response to climate change. To mitigate its effect, there is need to invest in policies that reassure our commitment to climate action. Mr. Speaker, sir, as you are aware, the drought has really affected our areas, especially in Tana River County, my constituency, Garsen. Mr. Speaker, sir, we are doing a water tracking, which is very expensive. The source of water is 160 kilometers away. The area like Odoganda location, Mr. Speaker, sir, the lion and hyenas nearly feed on our mothers because they are struggling, they are fighting over water, Mr. Speaker, sir, the scarcity of water. Also, Mr. Speaker, sir, the school-going children, the boarding school, Asa boarding school, Mr. Speaker, is facing closure because there is no water, there is no food, Mr. Speaker, sir. Also, there is a human-wildlife conflict, Mr. Speaker. The wildlife have moved to the scarce water source of water source, the scarce water source, Mr. Speaker, which is a well being dug. Is this House to approve for the urgent intervention by the government, Mr. Speaker, sir, for this situation to be handled. Mr. Speaker, you know there is policies of the government to do mega dams in those affected areas, Mr. Speaker. Once the mega dam is being done, we will have a long-lasting solution for these areas. I beg to move the motion, Mr. Speaker. I want my good brother, former CS, Mr. Mwangi Kinjuri, to second. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Kinjuri, I'll exercise a discretion to give you your 5 minutes and the balance of his 5 minutes for you to talk for 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, this is a very important motion. And before I make my contribution, I really want to thank the people of Laikipia for electing me for the 4th time. They elected me for 15 consecutive years, 3 terms uninterrupted. And now they have also given me another opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I congratulate you for also being elected to the seat of the Speaker and your deputy. I know that this House is in safe hands. Mr. Speaker, it is important to note that we have a record since 90s being in this House. We have enough experience. I also have the opportunity to have served as minister in the previous government, and also to serve at the having Department of Special Programs under my ministry. And therefore, this is an area that I am knowledgeable in it. And Mr. Speaker, it is one of the areas that need to be taken seriously by this House, and I hope that it's not going to end by us discussing this motion today. Mr. Speaker, the issue of drought is not only affecting this country, it is a worldwide phenomenon. Mr. Speaker, climate change is real and has really affected the lives of many people in the world. High cost of living being experienced everywhere, not only because of the crude prices, Mr. Speaker. You can see the cost of the essential commodities very high. Very few families can now be able to feed their families. The cost of food very high. People have no money, and a lot of our youth are jobless. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, as we debate today, it is important to note that climate change is real. If we are able to observe the cycle, drought cycle in this country, you look at what was happening in the 70s and the 80s. Drought used to occur between 8 and 10 years. In the 80s, late 80s and 90s, the cycle changed from 8 to 10 years, and it was between 4 and 5 years. What is happening today is that the cycle has now come down to 2 to 3 years. It is really worrying. There are a number of interventions that have been put into place. However, we don't have any particular policy that have been highlighted that can be able to be carried in unison to ensure that at least we can predict on what to do this year or next year. Measures taken, for example, Mr. Speaker, we have policy documents that are in place, like aiding drought emergency strategy. This strategy was meant, Mr. Speaker, and is already in place to ensure that key development activities supposed to be undertaken, both short-term and long-term, are in place. Mr. Speaker, we have the ASO policy program also in place and being revised today. We have also National Disaster Risk Management Bill and policy already at cabinet level. We don't know when it will be able to land in this house. We have resilience program framework, not finalized and signed, and it indicates clearly key activities that are supposed to be implemented to build resilience. Mr. Speaker, there are priorities that must be taken into place. For example, when there is drought, the issue of peace and security is threatened. We have cattle rustlers coming into place, raiding each other, a lot of deaths being caused, and this is what is happening in this country today, a lot of insecurity. Insecurity not only in terms of human to human, but also human-wildlife conflict in those areas that we border our forests, ranchers, and we are really being threatened. Even the little that we could have harvested during harvest periods is harvested by wild animals, elephants, manes, all over the country. And therefore, this is an issue that requires to be put into place, prioritization on how we tackle drought to ensure that we have security in this country. Education and opportunities for our youth is also very important because, again, those young people, and especially those coming from our ASO counties, do not have the opportunity to get proper education. And therefore, affirmative action must be put into place to ensure, for example, if there are schools, we must have low-cost boarding primary schools to ensure that kids are kept in school. And also institutions that are there strengthened, and strengthening in terms also on how to deal with issues to deal with the drought situation in the country. We have, Mr. Speaker, issues to do with women empowerment are also very important, and also the issue to do with institutional strengthening. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to issues of institutional strengthening, again, there must be clarification of roles that are carried out and responsibilities between the national government and the county governments. We are to ensure that there is a borderline. When should the national government intervene, and when should the county government be able to intervene? And this, Mr. Speaker, must be very clear, because today, if you leave this activity to the county governments, which are supposed to be the front line, which are supposed to be able to take their responsibility seriously, most of them cannot be able to rise to the occasion. Mr. Speaker, there is also the issue of enhanced governance and accountability. Right now, distribution of relief food is ongoing to those counties that have been privileged so far, because most of us, our counties have not yet been able to receive any relief food. But again, how do we account not only for the funds, but also distribution of relief food? Monitoring and evaluation, not only in terms of relief distribution, but in any other government department. This is one of the departments that must be strengthened in this country. Why would you wait, Mr. Speaker, year in, year out, for the Auditor General to come and pinpoint the issues in the ministries? What happened 5, 10 years ago? Because at the end of the day, the report of from the Auditor General Office will land in this House 3 or 5 years when the issues happened. It is important that we strengthen monitoring and evaluation, make sure that those departments are strengthened so that we can be able to cure any ill any time that starts occurring. There is also policies that needs to be harmonized, Mr. Speaker, and finalized. You can see that we have so many of these policies that are running. If we can be able to harmonize them, know which one comes into place when, then, Mr. Speaker, we shall be able to say that this country is moving in the right direction. Mr. Speaker, some of the programs that have been set into place are through a drought emergency strategy. They had prioritized on areas, priorities Which dams should be built where? Where should we do water harvesting? Which measures should be taken to ensure that the farming communities and the pastoralist communities are living in harmony to support each other? All these strategies are in place. But, Mr. Speaker, instead of us looking at what is very important, we have put our priorities upside down. We have the big four agenda, Mr. Speaker. If today we are able to address the question agriculture in this country, which can be able to support other activities, because, Mr. Speaker, when a country is well fed, you know health is not curative, but preventive. And, Mr. Speaker, if we can put enough funds, and I'm happy that the President addressed himself to this issue that is going to support agriculture. And when you speak of agriculture, Mr. Speaker, it is not only about seed, it's about fishing, it's about livestock. All this is encompassed there. Mr. Speaker, lastly, is that the issue of emergency food is so important. People are dying, Mr. Speaker, almost dying. You go to schools, our people are fainting in classroom, enrollment has gone down, and therefore we are calling upon the government to issue food and immediately to our schools, whereby we shall be able to support our people to be able to go through education system. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to support.
Thank you. To second.
To second.
Honorable members, I now propose the question that the House do not adjourn. We have plenty of time. Each member will speak. So if you hold your horses, there shouldn't be unnecessary conversing. Each one of you will have time. Farah Yakub Fafi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Indeed, I'm humbled that you gave me this chance. At very least, I thought my card is not working. I've been here for the last 5 days, from the start of a session to the end, believing that maybe there's something wrong with my card, my numbers, and our senior brothers who have been here have not shown us the tricks so that we can move upwards in the queuing system. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, sir, I will have been the first to congratulate you, but I will give you a fermented congratulation, as they say in our family. I'll tell you I'm saying congratulations for you being elected. I want to thank and bow to my people, the Fafians, a special bow to Hangolites for delivering this seat, giving me the mandate to represent them, the power to legislate, the mantle to oversight in this House. I say thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, sir, it's also an honor that the subject of the matter, when I'm given the chance to talk, is a matter of dear importance to me and my people. Mr. Speaker, sir, Fafi constituency in Garissa town is the largest constituency in Garissa. It's a constituency which has 45-kilometer stretch of river, Tana, 50-kilometer of borderline to Somalia. It's a constituency with people of great generosity in that they harbored, welcomed, host Somali refugees to the number of 200,000 and above. Mr. Speaker, sir, as we speak drought, every household in a ward called Fafi Ward, the host community in that area, host a number of around 5 to 10 individuals who are refugee influx, famine influx from southern parts of Somalia Gede region. These numbers to about 65,000 people. They have not been registered. They have not been catered for, and they are burdened to a family whose main problem today is bringing a source of bread in their table. Mr. Speaker, sir, drought has been an issue which has been there in this constituency since the time of independence. It comes, it goes. Now hitting us hard in that this is the 5th system without rain in that area. The funny part of it is 2 kilometers from the river in that constituency, if you live 2 kilometers from the river in that constituency, inwards, you'll find no water. The farthest point from the river to the borderline in my constituency is 200 kilometers. If something is done, money is poured, funds is given, I believe water could have been pumped from River Tana to the farthest point in my constituency. And today I could not have been here saying there's lack of water in my area. Government has been doing a lot of interventions, but of little importance. It was important, but of little. Rain harvesting have been the main interventions the government used to do. As we speak, there are over 200 water pans done in that constituency. I can see the light is on. But the issue of drought in our area is culminated by lack of water in that area. It's because of lack of water in that area that the schools today, 28 primary schools in my area are closed or almost be closed because of lack of water. It's because of lack of water in that area that there's insecurity because of conflicts in the little water pans which are there, which has water today. This is an area which used to have Arawale Reserve, but because of lack of water and drought today, the hunter's heartbeat, Herola, a wild rare species, which was 10,000 in numbers in 1980. Today, the numbers are less than 200 or 100. Mr. Speaker, sir, I second the motion. I support the proposal to adjournment. I know this is a dear, important subject to our area, and I want a great government intervention in that area, and government to enhance sectors.
Member for Laikipia West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to talk on this motion. First, I'll join the other people members in congratulating you for being elected the Speaker of this National Assembly. The second thing is that I would like to thank the people of Laikipia West for seeing it fit to vote for me as their member of parliament. This is not the first time they have voted for me. In 2013, the people, good people of Laikipia West voted for me. Again, I was a member of parliament. Then in 2017, they gave me a break for 5 years. I had time to reflect, and then they voted me back in this general election. I want to thank them. I want to assure them that I will perform my duties as they expect of me. I'm now more energized, and I will do whatever the promises that I made during the campaigns. Madam Speaker, on the motion at hand in our county, in Laikipia County, we are also experiencing the same problem, though it's not as severe as it is in the northeastern. We have some plenty of crop, but we are also having problems, like my counterpart, the member for Laikipia East, Honorable Mwangi Kinjori, has said. We are having problems with the conflict between the livestock, the conflict between the wild animals and the people because of their crops. I want this government to address that situation because the crop we are having is retro, and if it can be conserved, it can help in other regions that do not have any. Second thing that I would want to address, Madam Speaker, is that usually I find a very difficult cycle in our place. Whenever we start planting, the prices of seeds, fertilizers go up. But when it comes to harvesting time, like now we are preparing to harvest for starting this month to next month, add-on, the prices of the produce, farm produce, goes down. So we are asking this government, which we are serving, to do whatever possible. There was the promise that the prices of the farm produce will be looked at, and I pray that we fulfill that. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Member for Laikipia West. I know that you had great difficulty with your card yesterday, and in fact it did go missing, and we hope that you have recovered it now. Next, we have Member for Samburu North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First of all, I would like to thank the great people of Samburu North for giving me the opportunity to represent them in this august House. I would also like to thank them for electing leaders who stood on the platform of peace during the just concluded elections. And I'd like to encourage them and to tell them that the path of peace will only come through dialogue. I would like to encourage them and tell them that I will stand on that path, and I would like to thank them for their support and their prayers, encouragement, and the belief that they have that peace is indeed possible in Samburu North. Madam Speaker, the people of northern Kenya are languishing in acute famine, the likes of which have not been seen in generations. It's a matter of life and death in the counties of northern Kenya. Samburu North, to be specific, as of last week, there were almost 40,000 households which are in dire need of food interventions. We all know that famine in northern Kenya is cyclic. We know that next year there's going to be famine or hunger. The year after that, we know that it's going again to be there. It's a shame that we stand in the floor of this House and talk about acute hunger. And we hear that there have been papers and strategic plans, but pretty little implementation on the ground. I would like to laud the President in his speech that he delivered in this House a few days ago. And I would like to appreciate the food that he had given as a relief measure to northern Kenyan counties. I would like to thank him on behalf of the people of Samburu North, but I would like to tell him that the food was inadequate. I would like to also thank him because on his speech he alluded to value addition of livestock products. I would like to ask that the livestock offtake programs be quickly implemented, because as we lose livestock in this famine, that's a great loss. The government can offtake that livestock and supplement families. I would also like to speak about the perennial underdevelopment in northern Kenya. He spoke about such things as, the livestock offtake programs and so on, industrialization in the north. We would like him to, address the sessional papers which had legitimized the underdevelopment of some parts of this country, and not just in words, but in action. I would like to also put it on the floor of this House that there have been cases of children fainting in classes. There was a fatality in Samburu East 5 days ago. I would like the government to step in and really provide for the school feeding programs, because that has not been in existence since June this year. That's among the small things that I would like to contribute on the drought debate in the House. And I would like to thank the great people of Samburu North for giving me an opportunity to amplify their voice. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
A member for Taveta.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to make my first contribution in this House. I will try as much as possible to be very brief. First and foremost, Madam Speaker, let me take this exceptional opportunity to thank my family and the great people of Taveta for the exceptional privilege they have bestowed on me to serve them as their Member of Parliament. Madam Speaker, I have followed the proceedings of this House very keenly for the last 5 days, and I prayed so much to get this opportunity to speak. I am pleased to note that this is a huge privilege, and as Senator McCain had said, I can confidently say this is a service to a cause better than my self-interest. Madam Speaker, my standing here means that the Chamber has said goodbye to one of its finest women parliamentarians, my predecessor, Dr. Naomi Shaban. Dr. Naomi has enjoyed a distinguished political career for 20 years and has mentored many young women in Kenya, and I respect her for that. I pray that I will fit in her shoes, and even more important, I pray that God will open for her new doors. Madam Speaker, my being here is God. And I want to take this rare opportunity also to thank God for giving me this opportunity to serve in this august House. With respect to Taveta constituency, Madam Speaker, I have taken leadership at a time when there is a lot of challenges. And I know many constituencies, many of my constituents who are watching me right now, one of the issues that is of concern to them is the issue of infrastructure, and especially the Taveta-Ilasiti Road, which I always say the road is so worse than the road to hell. Madam Speaker, on the issue that is before you today, the issue of drought, I want to address two issues. One, I appreciate the intervention that has been made by the government of Kenya to distribute food to 3 million Kenyans. But I dare say that it is not enough. Of key concern, Madam Speaker, are our children in school, and we plead. The President say we save 3 billion, and I plead to him that the 300 billion that we are saving from the ministries that he has indicated should actually be applied to to ensure we have free secondary education, and at the same time we have food for our children in school. Secondly, Madam Speaker, I wish to indicate to the House that a greater population also suffer from drought. These are pastoralists. Food is not enough. They have livestock to take care of. And this house in the year 2013, Madam Speaker, passed the Kenya Wildlife Conservation and Management Act. This is Act number 47 of 2013. Specific interest, Madam Speaker, is at section 102 of that act, which says that we should have guidelines. The Cabinet Secretary and Kenya Wildlife Services should create guidelines to ensure that our grazers access national parks for purposes of grazing and watering of livestock in terms of drought and national disaster. My plea today, Madam Speaker, is the implementation of section 102.
Member, I can give you a minute to finish your sentence.
I was saying that even if you were to go to the national parks today, Madam Speaker, you will find animals grazing there. The only problem is that they graze at a fee, which is an illegal fee. And what we are saying, because we all agree that drought is now a national disaster, let us allow our grazers to access the national parks in accordance with section 102 of the Wildlife Conservation and Management Act. With those few and many remarks, Madam Speaker, I thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I had to give you an extra time because my hat's off to you if you fail our matriarch of women politics in Kenya. I now call upon Member for Ganze.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also take this opportunity to thank the people of Ganze, the people from the 4 wards of Ganze, that is Bamba, Jaribuni, Sokoke, and Ganze, for overwhelmingly electing me to represent them in this 13th Parliament. I also take this opportunity, like my colleagues, to congratulate you, Madam Speaker, for getting elected to lead this House, and also the Speaker, Honorable Moses Masika Wetangula. Madam Speaker, I come from Ganze, which is a very dry constituency. It still faces a myriad of challenges many years after independence. The people of Ganze are still struggling with the necessities of life, such as bad housing, water shortages, poor road infrastructure, and poor education. Madam Speaker, almost 80% of Ganze is currently affected by the ravages of the ongoing drought and famine. Livestock farming, which is the economic mainstay, has severely been hampered as all pastures have dried up. The few water ponds, which are shared by humans and wildlife, have also currently been invaded by elephants from the Tsavo East National Park. Madam Speaker, the President talked in paragraph 48 of his speech the fact that 3.5 million people are affected by famine in Kenya. This is the true position in Ganze right now. As we speak right now, it has not rained for the last 3 years in Ganze. The people there right now are surviving on a meal, 1 meal after 3 days. The situation is so bad and it calls for urgent and immediate government intervention. Madam Speaker, we saw the President launching relief supplies to the drought-stricken areas the other day. But I want to tell this House that these supplies are yet
to reach Ganze. And I urge all those concerned to make sure that in the soonest time possible, these relief supplies get to reach the people of Ganze who are suffering so much. Madam Speaker, Ganze is blessed with the seasonal rivers, and when it rains, a lot of water drains to the ocean. If there's a way that this water can be preserved, it can go a long way in alleviating the water shortages that are facing Ganze right now. And it is against this backdrop that I ask the government to immediately start construction of the Rare Dam. This is a dam whose feasibility study was done a long time ago, and even a design was done. But I can say right now here today that this report is lying somewhere in the Ministry of Water, gathering dust, and nothing has been done on the ground. If this dam can be constructed, I know it can go a long way in making sure that there is enough water for use, both by human and livestock keepers in Ganze. The drought situation in Ganze has been compounded by the fact that there has been an invasion of elephants into the human settlements. So we are facing a serious human-wildlife conflict, which also needs immediate government intervention to help the situation. Because as it is right now, even if the rains come and the farmers get to their fields, nothing can grow because the elephants are all over and they will destroy the crops. So I also urge the government to to come up with long-term solutions, including, if it will be possible, fencing off the Tsavo East to contain the animals into the reserve, and also now enable the farmers to do their farming without interruptions from the wild animals. There are many challenges that are facing Ganze right now. Poor education, which is compounded by the fact that the children are dropping off because they can't go.
Thank you, Member for Ganze. I now call upon Member for West Mugirango.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. May I take the earliest opportunity to congratulate you and Mr. Speaker on your deserved election as our Speaker and Deputy Speaker, respectively. I, in particular, celebrate you, Madam Speaker, on behalf of my class, that you had the honor to teach civil procedure during my second coming to the University of Nairobi. My name is Steve Mogaka. I am an accountant, a banker, and an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. And those are the skills, Madam Speaker, the people of West Mugirango saw fit to present to this House for use as part of the solution provision for the people of Kenya. And for that reason, I have the humble opportunity of thanking the people of West Mugirango for coming out in large numbers and voting me in overwhelmingly, and I promise I will not let them down. I am, in fact, a miracle MP because from the ward I hail from in West Mugirango, there has never been an MP except for 9 months only, when the late George Justice Morara served and died in a road accident. And before that, my other ward member, Honorable Thomas Mongare, had also died within 1 year of election, and may God rest their spirits in eternal peace. Madam Speaker, as we support this motion of adjournment, the people of West Mugirango are mourning because they woke up to a brutal murder of a lady school principal of Rangenyo Secondary School. I am hoping that when Mr. Mutiambai and George Kinoti resigned or tendered their resignation, this is not what we are going to be treated to in the Republic of Kenya. Through this House, Madam Speaker, I am pleading to the investigating agencies to get down to the bottom of what killed Madam Lydia, who killed it, and let them be brought to book as soon as practicable. Talking of the droughts ravaging this country, Madam Speaker, indeed, this has been a cyclical, vicious circle in the Republic of Kenya every other season. I sympathize with our compatriots in the ASAL areas and request that this country gets a permanent solution to the drought problems in this republic. But as we speak of drought, the area I represent, West Mugrango, Madam Speaker, is within the convectional rain region of Lake Victoria. And as the sun burns the rest of Kenya, the convectional currents go amok, and the Gusii region is only ravaged every other day with hailstones and hailstorms which destroy crop, which destroy food, and never in this republic have I heard talk of possible compensation for victims of hailstones and hailstorms. My areas of Enchoro, Samaro, and parts of Bunyamatuta ward, the last 2 weeks suffered serious hailstorms. And coming with those hailstorms is actual hunger, because the food crops go, the cash crop being tea, being coffee, being pyrethrum, they also go. And I will be proposing an amendment to the Disaster Act of this country, that when we talk of a drought, the flip side of it is always hailstones and heavy rains which wash away soils and create floods to our neighbors in the Nyando region. Madam Speaker, as we join this 13th Parliament, and I celebrate the speech by His Excellency President William Ruto, particularly when he admitted that this country is broke. Broke, yes, it is, but as a result of this brokenness, we
Member for Kajiado East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. We have been sitting here for the last week, and I was wondering whether my card was not working, but I'm very pleased to have got this opportunity. And I congratulate you, Madam Speaker, for being appointed as Deputy Speaker for our House. I also congratulate our Speaker, Wetangula. I say congratulations. We look forward to supporting you and to delivering what we need to deliver to our Kenyans. I also like to take this opportunity to thank my people of Kajiado East constituency for electing me as the IMP to represent them and to bring development to them. I also like to thank my family for their unconditional support. And I also like to thank my friends in the diaspora community where I was living in the United States. Many of us wish to have the opportunity to be able to return to Kenya and help our countries in the ways that we can. And when I told them that I was going to vie for this seat, many of them expressed a great deal of support and encouragement, as they all also wish that they can find ways to help our country. Madam Speaker, I was very pleased to hear that strong emphasis of our presidents in food production. This country obviously is suffering. Many parts of our country are suffering due to lack of sufficient food supply. And I hope that with his policies and his focus on agriculture, that we will be able to do someday to supply enough food to our people. It's very sad to see that every year generations after generations, we continue to face food shortage. And we continue to see a lot of our people are struggling due to lack of food. And I hope that with policies of this administration, with the food subsidies that is giving to our populations, the fertilizers to our farmers, I hope that will all, at the end of the day, will yield good results for our communities. With the recent subsidies that was given for fertilizer, although it is very good to see that, I also wish to see subsidies be given for for feeds, for animal feeds, so that our pastoral communities can also afford to buy feeds for their livestock and grass. So I hope that moving forward, and considering the dire situation of drought in the country, that our government will be able to come up with also subsidies for animal feeds so that our communities can feed their livestock. In terms of drought situation, my constituents, like many other who spoke before me, are struggling right now. There isn't enough grass. Last weekend, I went to my home. I found 6 cows are actually being helped because they can't stand anymore because they don't have grass. Our people are struggling to feed their families, struggling to feed their livestock, and you can see a dire situation happening. Children are struggling in schools, and I hope that in this House, with our government, with the new administration, we can work collectively to find measures and find ways to be able to help our people so that they can come out of poverty. I also realize, and many folks from the pastoral communities, that livestock farming is becoming very difficult in these arid lands. It is my hope that our government, together with our National Assembly here, will be able to come up with ways for how to mitigate with the drought. Because having our people depending on relief food every year is not sustainable right now. I also wished to have seen the President talking about environmental conservation and habitat conservation, because we need to restore our environments, grow more trees, and find ways we can cope with the climate. With that few remarks, because I see my time is up, I'm grateful for the opportunity, and we look forward for days again to find ways to.
Member for Keyo North.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. This being my first day today to speak in this House, I want first to thank the Almighty God for giving me this opportunity, and also to thank the people of Keyo North constituency for sending me to this House to represent them. People from Kapchemuto Ward, Mutei, people from Sergoit, across the constituency. I want to tell them that I'm here as their voice. Madam Speaker, I wish also to assure my people that I will represent them diligently and working with all state agencies and ensure that electricity supply goes to all parts of our constituency. Madam Speaker, we have projects in my constituency like Marine Stadium, which has not been completed because of challenges here and there during the last regime. But under this government, I'm sure that we are going to complete it. Madam Speaker, I don't want to forget my mentor, the Honorable Senator Kipchumba Murkomen, whom I worked under him for 10 years as his personal assistant. I want to tell him thank you very much, wherever he is, for mentoring me to this level that I represent the people of my constituency. To conclude on that is to thank my family and my campaign team, and in a special way, my father, Mr. Yusuf Kaitany, who unsuccessfully ran 3 times to represent this, our people. But now I thank God that he is alive and he's seeing me here representing the people that he would wish he wanted to represent. I say thank you. Madam Speaker, on this motion, I want to say that drought has really affected many people, especially in many parts of our country, especially in Kerio Valley. And Madam Speaker, first we need to look at the effects of this drought. Children are no longer going to school because they are concentrating to look for something to eat. Education has also gone down because of that thing, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have seen deaths, both in human and livestock, Madam Speaker. And people are suffering. They are suffering both by losing their loved ones and at the same time, livestock, Madam Speaker. So this issue is very dire, and we know that serious intervention needs to be put in place. The same drought has even caused insecurity, Madam Speaker. All the fights that is happening in Kerio Valley and even many other parts in the horn of Kenya is as a result of drought. People who don't have anything to eat are now resulting in doing things which are inhuman, and that's why I'm saying measures should be put in place. For us to see a transformative country in terms of food security, I think we need to concentrate not only on rain-fed farming, but we should also move from there to what do you call it, irrigation, Madam Speaker. Like in my constituency, we have Kimwarer Dam, Aroran Kimwarer, which we are sure that if it could have been constructed, we would have a much supply of food, which will eventually assist our people to increase food production. Madam Speaker, I know, and I'm sure that many members in this House are also getting a lot of grievances from members of their constituency, whom are asking for maybe support in terms of food and many other supports. Madam Speaker, going forward, I wish this House will consider putting some good budget so that our farmers can be motivated to increase production. Because if a farmer can get good money at the end of selling his or her produce, that will motivate them to increase production, and in the long run, we will not be facing challenges like what we are facing today. Madam Speaker, I am so happy, I am excited, and I don't want to spend my time. I am happy because at least my people have heard me speak for the first time. Thank you very much.
Member for Dadaab, and thereafter we'll have member for Makueni. I know that you've been having challenges with your card, so I think you better have someone help you with it because you're going next. Thank you. Member for Dadaab.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for having allowed me to contribute on this motion. I also join my other colleagues who have congratulated you and the Speaker of the 13th Parliament, the Honorable Moses Masika Wetangula, for having been elected as deputy, as Speaker and Deputy. Madam Speaker, I stand in this place, the same place where I stood about 30 years ago, almost 30 years ago, when we had exactly the same problems that we have now. For the longest, the people from the arid and semi-arid areas of this country have been subjected and have been at the mercy of the vagaries of weather. The government at independence started off on the wrong note, because we had what was called then the Sessional Paper number 10 of 1965, whose gist was what they called intensification of the investment of the government and country in the high potential areas, and absolutely no mention of the low potential areas. The gist of that sessional paper was that the government ended up spending on investing nothing in those areas to try and promote the kind of agriculture or the mainstay of the lives of those people. Madam Speaker, we are going through the same cycle 30 plus years, 60 years, almost 60 years, 1965 and today. is 58 years. Madam Speaker, I have personally had the pleasure of trying to deal with the issue of drought in my own ways when I was in the 10th Parliament and got the best results that anybody would ever get those days. What happens, for those who are not from the pastoralist backgrounds, I'll tell you, the problem with this kind of weather is that there are limited number of water points. Because of the limited number of water points, the livestock will congregate in that place and will eat all the pasture. So the area itself becomes totally degraded and does not have any pasture. But because there is no water where the pasture is, and there's no pasture where the water is, the animal have got to go like 3 days or 2 days to go and look for pasture. For such animals like cows, or cattle for that matter, they can only stay about 3 days without water, Madam Speaker. They have to then foot back or trek back to where the water was. They die on the way. That's why you see the kind of stuff you see right now. They die on the way. In the drought of 2010-2011, I engaged 59 water boozers myself in my own constituency, using both the emergency component in the CDF as well as some other very good, powerful donors that came on board, which included those days the Millennium Villages program, which was partly in my constituency. Madam Speaker, not only were we able to save the livestock or the livestock in its entirety, but they were so strong that we could sell them in the market and fetch very good prices for them because we were taking water to where the pasture is and the animals stayed where the pasture is. It is not rocket science for the government to adopt such strategies to try and protect the livestock because everybody eats meat. We had lunch today and there's meat. There's mutton, there's goat meat, there's cow meat, there's camel meat, which is extremely delicious. But why is it that we have never had a government that seriously undertakes to make sure that these people or this sector of the economy itself is protected the same way the tea is protected, the coffee is protected, and all other agricultural areas, agricultural crops are protected?
You may have 1 minute to finish your sentence.
I don't know how, okay. There you go. I thank you for your 1 minute. Being a former speaker myself, who has been out of this parliament for the last 10 days for one reason or the other, I took a little bit longer and there was a lot of, but the idea is, for God's sake, let's get for once a government that cares about these people and this sector of the economy itself, for once. The ideas and the strategies are in abundance. You go to Namibia, they have got the biggest ranches there. They have got what you call the best beef there. They export to the European market. They don't have land as good as ours. Theirs is even much more arid than ours. But because of the intervention of the government, because of the fact that there is water everywhere and there is the growing of the grass itself, they are able to benefit from that. Botswana, the same thing. And a number of other countries, the same thing. But we need to we tried to do something in Galana, all out of corruption. The whole money went.
Thank you. Member for Makueni, and then after that, I'd kindly help member from Kajiado South. He's keeps going off.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this time. This is my first time to speak in this parliament. I sincerely feel very honored. I'm very grateful to God, first, for giving me this opportunity to be in this parliament, because I think sometimes it takes the grace of God to go through a political process. Secondly, I wish to thank the great people of Makueni constituency for electing me as the first woman member of parliament, and I want to assure them that I will be their representative, and I will do what it takes to make a difference in their lives and in their households. I felt very greatly honored by the confidence they demonstrated in me. We've had 9 men since the whole issue of election started in Makueni constituency, and I am the first woman to be elected. So I really feel very privileged, and the women in Makueni feel your voice has reached the national level, and I can assure you that even your voice will actually be heard. Makueni constituency is one of the biggest constituencies in this country, with a population of 194,000 people. It goes far beyond the national figure of 70,000. And I pray in this house, when the process comes for delineation of constituencies, we will be considered, because I think fair representation is part of reflection of equity. Makueni constituency is one of the semi-arid constituencies we have in this country. And like the motion of today suggests, it faces quite a number of challenges related to drought. Some of the major challenges, of course, is the inadequate water, which of course is as a result of unreliable rainfall. And I'm happy to report that we are very happy as a constituency, because the national government has invested one of the biggest dams in our constituency, Drought Dam. The only challenge we have with this is now it has taken 6 years. Every time the budget goes down and it has to be reallocated and all that. And I feel if this project was taken with the seriousness that it deserves, my people will not be facing the kind of challenges they are facing today. As the motion implies, if you go to Makueni now, we have a school dropout of around 30%. The children cannot go to school. They are too ugly to go to school. The mothers, if you look at them, you don't need to be a scientist to know that they are emancipated because of the kind of strain they are actually going through. And I think if the government concentrated on such projects like the Drought Dam and they were fast-tracked to deliver the desired results, I think will make a lot of difference in this particular country. The other major challenge we have in this constituency is poor infrastructure, and especially electricity and road network. All these years in my constituency, I have less than 40 kilometers of tarmac road. And that's why when the president talked of the fact that in his opening speech, we want to dislaunch ethnicity, I was very happy. Because to me, dislaunching ethnicity is not a word for campaign. I think dislaunching ethnicity means we develop this country holistically. When we share resources equally, when we share projects as per the need, then I think that is dislaunching ethnicity. But if dislaunching ethnicity is only a word to be used during campaigns and during elections, Madam Speaker, I think we'll be far in addressing some of the emerging needs in these constituents of ours. The other problem that I think is a major challenge, or I don't think, but it's a major challenge, and it's as a result of the water issue, food insecurity. And of course, that leads to low incomes. So you see, if we solve that one problem of water by the national
Okay, let her finish the sentence.
I really support this motion because the issue of drought is finishing our people, and we cannot sit here and just not consider it. And let's look at our country is as strong as the weakest link. If people die in Makueni, there is no way those with food will feel proud of this particular country. Thank you, and I'm happy to be in this house.
Thank you, member for Makueni. I now call upon member for Kajiado South. Member for Kajiado. What?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First, I congratulate you and Mr. Speaker for getting an opportunity and being elected to serve the 13th Parliament as our leaders. Secondly, Madam Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the people of Kajiado South, my family, for trusting on me and electing me to represent them in this house, the 13th Parliament. Madam Speaker, Kajiado South has its own uniqueness. We are in the agricultural slope of Kilimanjaro, Mount Kilimanjaro. We also neighbor and we host Amboseli Game Reserve and Savo National Park. Kajiado South, we do face several number of challenges, and I want to say a few because of time. Like many other young people in the Republic of Kenya, Kajiado South, that is Loitoktok, our youth are facing unemployment, and thank to the President for the initiative of lifting the blacklisting of CRB, and also seeing on the proposal that he has on the Hustler Fund to take care of our women and our youth who are unemployed. Madam Speaker, we face a lot of challenges in the education system. We do have an education system in our place that is not functioning. That is, you can find out we don't have the required number of teachers, and even the issue to do the electricity and water, making our education become a problem at the rural area. Madam Speaker, I also support and put the same prayer that Kajiado South, we also have a problem on road networks. We don't really have a road. The main road that is supposed to serve us between Kajiado County and Taita Taveta County, it is a illicit Taveta Road. That road has a lot of benefits, economic benefits to our country. It serves Tanzania in the border, and also to serve Mombasa in terms of the food supply. Being a constituency that we are leading in the production of tomatoes and onions, I think that road will do us good and will promote the economy in our place. Madam Speaker, there is also another challenge that we have, and during the campaigns we promised our people on the issue of opening the border post, the Loitoktok Tarakia border post. We are only in the whole country that we have a border post that is operating within 12 hours, and others are doing 24 hours operation.
Member, proceed. I will take the point of order once we
Thank
know
you.
who it is.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, to go to the subject of today on the floor of the House, Kajiado County, where Kajiado South is, we are at approximately of 22,000 kilometers square, and we also being categorized as ASAD region. That means that we are coming from an arid and a semi-arid area, whereby 80% of our land coverage is under ASAL. We have a problem now. There's a problem in our place in the issue of livestock production and crop farming. We are wanting to plead to this House and the whole Republic that we need to look and declare the drought as an emergency in this country, in those areas. And what we are trying to see on the short term, if you are able to be given the hay, and if our people are able to give a vaccine now, and I appreciate that KWS need to do something. the issue of also relief of food relief, and also in future, can also our livestock be taken care in terms of livestock insurance scheme, and maybe seeing how we can do other crops that are friendly to the short rains. Madam Speaker, thank you so much, and I appreciate it.
Member for Isiolo South, I think you have a point of order. Yes, and I couldn't tell your face earlier, and you didn't put your card yet. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Madam. While I'm thanking Honorable Ali Wario for bringing this motion, is it in order? Because this motion is more or less like open-ended. We are discussing about drought, and I thought the last sentence is supposed to be reading that we declare drought as a national disaster. Otherwise, what it says here is only that we discuss the matters. And we have to say, what should we resolve? And our resolution should be that we declare drought as a nation. This House declares the House as a national disaster. Was that an order that we discussed? Thank you.
Yeah, Honorable Member, I know I was not on the chair when this began, but I can see that it was under Standing Order 31, adjournment of the House. 33. Yes, adjournment on a definite matter of urgent national importance, which is got to do with the drought that is ravaging most parts of the country. So members are ventilating and debating on that particular issue. So it doesn't, the order doesn't provide for any resolution or, on that point. Honorable members, okay, honorable member, if you kindly sit down, put the intervention button, then I'll just call upon you. Kindly, honorable member, kindly have a seat. You put your intervention button, and then I will give you an opportunity to speak. I just need to, because I can hear your voice, but I can't see you here. Hold on a moment. Actually, honorable member, I think you are being disrespectful of the speaker. I have asked you not to shout out loud, but put the card. I'll find you and I will call upon you. And I'm about to do that. But if you continuously shout, then I can't even ask where your name is, because you're too far, so I can't see you very clearly. But also, we are also new in the House. I'm just still learning your names and faces. So allow me to use the technology that's available for me to identify you. I'm kindly asking you to be polite enough to allow that to happen. That's all. But if you keep shouting, it's offensive. All right, member for Wajir North, now you can give your point of order.
Madam Speaker, I apologize. On the floor is the MP for Wajir North, your proposer and your constituent who voted you. I didn't intend to annoy you in any way, but to contribute constructively. On the point of relevance, Madam Speaker, this House adjourned for a special motion, the status of drought. We are being mesmerized by maiden speeches.
So could you kindly guide us so that we can contribute to the drought ravaging the ASAL countries of this country, so that we can speak to issues than rather the maiden speeches, which can come at any time. It's about relevance.
I think, Honorable Member, I realize that some of the contributors are actually, the honorable members, are actually speaking to, making their maiden speech in a few sentences and then moving on to talk about drought, I think without exception. So let's not stop them. I think we will now proceed, and we shall have the honorable member for Marsabit. TJ
Thank
Kajwang,
you.
I cannot see your card here on the intervention. I can just hear your voice. Honorable member for Marsabit, proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to add my voice to this very important statement. And I want to congratulate the member of parliament who has brought it. It is quite relevant to many of us, and maybe that is why you can see some people getting emotional, because it is affecting, and some people are already losing lives. Madam Speaker, the situation is so bad at the moment, whereby as a result of the drought, the school-going children, some are fainting in classrooms, some are not even going to schools. Lactating mothers and pregnant mothers are getting sick and weaker. We have age 5 children who are already malnourished, and the situation is getting worse every day. The elderly are the most affected, Madam Speaker, and we've even lost lives. At the moment, there are people who have already lost lives, and others cannot even wake up from their beds. Madam Speaker, I remember even in 12th Parliament, while I was in Senate, we debated over this about 2 times. That means after every 3 years, in fact, according to my observation, after every 3 years, the drought comes. After every 3 years, the drought comes. But this time round, it is quite serious, because for the last 4 seasons, many areas have not received rains. That means the situation is worse than any other time that we've had drought. That is why we are requesting that it can be declared as a famine now, and declared so that the attention it deserves can be gotten. Madam Speaker, in most of our areas, water is a real problem. We do not have enough boreholes. We do not have clean water. People who are already weak cannot even fetch water for themselves, because they go for about 20 kilometers to fetch water. And so proper planning, so that we can have enough water dams, enough ponds, enough boreholes, and people, you know, when they get, water is everything, water is life. Right now, animals are dying because of lack of water, lack of pasture. Human beings are also dying. As many have already said, there is no good network. Madam Speaker, food security, when we talk of food security, what comes into our mind is just human beings. But for a pastoralist, the life of a cow is more important than even the life of a human being. As they feed themselves right now, many people even cook food for their animals. Food that they don't have, even the little they receive as relief food, they end up giving to their animals. Proper planning as a government, as a nation, can help us. The Ministry of ASAL, if we can create that ministry, in fact, that can be our request. If we can create that ministry that can take care of ASAL areas and its needs, then we can plan, because in the next 20 years, with proper planning, we can reduce the impact of this. We can be planting, we can be harvesting water, we can do irrigation where necessary, so that at least we'll be able to feed enough people. And Madam Speaker, another thing that we can do is when we receive rains on this other side of the country, where we have food basket, that food can be bought and be transferred to the needy areas like northern part of Kenya, where we do not plant and harvest enough food, so that when the need comes, then the people on the ground can be able to buy enough food for themselves and for their families. Right now, we are dying, people are dying, and even the food that is distributed, it goes through a real process whereby the committees have their shares, other people in between have their own shares, and sometimes even the relief food find itself back to the market, and the needy people.
Member for Waraka, I can now see your card, 036. Yeah, you were misbehaving earlier on.
Yeah, pardon? Madam Speaker, you now see the kind of problems we have on the floor here. It is not an isolated problem. I think it's good for the clerk to organize to check around these facilities. Sometimes we think that we have pressed, but they're not seen at the board. And members here are anxious, thinking that they are not being seen. So I think the clerk should organize. That is administrative. Madam Speaker.
But honorable member, as long as we agree that when that happens, you just walk to the clerks and they should be able to get a sergeant at arms to help you, as opposed to shouting out loud your point of order. Thank you.
It's taken, Madam Speaker, I am the last person to misbehave in this house. I have enough years in my distinction, and my activity in this house has been fairly distinguished. I am very sorry. I would not want to, and I apologize. But Madam Speaker, I really wanted just to rise. You see, during a presidential speech and during a motion for adjournment, this is the time when new members learn. And they will not learn some of these debating skills if sometimes people who have been here for one or more terms are able to point out some of the issues. I was actually rising on a point of information. I wanted to inform the member who rose and stated that, in his opinion, the order should have concluded with a resolution of the House in some manner. And then, quite confidently, another member rose